Now, we have not seen at least the side of Wildcard Gaming, like Rafa had said, opt into grabbing themselves some of these meta junglers. They have most certainly leaned towards whatever fits their composition the best and whatever suits their play style. That's what we saw in the last game. That's what we saw in previous weeks. And now that's what we might just get again, as we're already pretty much in towards the draft here for us, ladies and gentlemen. Quite a few champions and bans that have already went through, and it looks like we are now in phase 2 bans that are starting to populate for us.
Oh, awesome. It's like Christmas, you know?
It's all here
a whole first phase of the pick and ban all at your disposal here. Let's take a look at how things panned out for the most part. So, of course, Wildcard, like you mentioned, on the blue side, first pick the Yuumi. And they're able to secure the Yuumi Ezreal as well. And what that speaks to me is, okay, you don't have to worry about all in bottom lanes like in Aphelios plus a set anymore, because you have all that kiting. As well, you don't have to put all your eggs into the bot lane basket. You could just let them go ahead, provide for their own. They're pretty self-sufficient. They've got the mobility to get out sticky situations. And Wildcard have also secured for themselves a possible win condition in the top lane. It's the Darius coming through, not on Brown Man Darius, but it's going to be Dragoon running that one.
And I mean, Dragoon actually had a pretty good game number one. Let's be candid. He was able to, neglect a lot of that pressure. A lot of those dives that were looking to be set up were not successful due to having just a lot of discipline and a lot of great, pressure on having some assistance back in towards the lane there, being able to knock down the Renekton here and there, using the Cannon Barrage fairly well in the Gangplank. But it will be the Kindred that is actually going to be picked up here for the second last pick in phase 2 for Wildcard Gaming. So looking to keep things spicy up against the Olaf, going to be able to provide a pretty important ultimate that will come and follow by a very big engage tool here from the Ornn. And now complementing and rounding out the entire draft will be another carry, of course, in the mid lane, as they're going to lock down the Azir.
Yeah, that is the finalized composition. Lots of possible damage. Kind of reminds me of Mirage last game, actually, but Mirage perhaps taking a few pages from the Wildcard book, where they're going to be able to secure themselves the Veigar in the mid lane. It's looking like, the Ornn in the top lane. This is actually a very, I would say, sturdy, solid composition, well-rounded. You get the tanks into the top lane and the jungle position. You get that utility mid laner that you can sort of rely on. It's in the hands of Robbie Bob, who is very much a team player. Rafa building them up to be this sort of this glue that keeps the side of Mirage together. And finally, down there in the bot lane, you certainly do have a heap of damage. The Aphelios secured, and overall, this does look like Mirage with just the tools that they need. And hopefully, if they don't fall behind the early game, just a very promising next game. They have the mentality advantage. They have a well-rounded composition, and I could see this very well going in favor for them. They started 1-3, but they could very well just get 2-0 and be right back on that horse.
It's very possible. I mean, the one thing I am a little bit worried about here for the composition for Wildcard Gaming is, the real lack of strong engage, where you're looking almost, for the Shurima shuffles into the Emperor's Divide, maybe to set yourself up when you do get that stasis and have access to the Hourglass. Then maybe you're going to be able to create some of those engages and put yourself into that 2.5 second Zhonya's to be able to neglect some of that damage or return. But, other than, really having, the Yuumi with the ultimates, or, the Darius maybe flashing in, there isn't necessarily a whole lot of reliable engage. And when you are pressing forward and engaging, you have this Veigar, it's going to be setting up cages. You have this Janna, who's going to be able to provide the Monsoon. Be so difficult to get on top of some of these carries. And I mean, Acelian wants to prove to us, listen, that was just a one-off game. They camped the hell out of us down in the bot lane here. We're going to bring things back here slowly but surely. I most certainly have the confidence in this 15-year-old, very mechanical kid who has just so much talent and really has so much skill that he's developed here over the time. And that's likely what they're going to be able to provide in these team fights here, is to make things very difficult to try and get on top of them. On the opposite end, you have great engage from Tony Top, who's going to be able to provide that very long range ultimate, one of the best engage tools within League of Legends. So I'm a little bit worried here, Switch, for Wildcard Gaming on setting up some of these engages, and if they do fall far behind, the sieging composition that could come out here, the hard engage, the hard dives, could very likely be a possibility.
Yeah, no kidding, Mirage. It's very hard to actually find flaws in their composition. I think, if anything, you maybe look towards snowballing that top lane matchup. Darius versus Ornn, sure, it's a bit of a snowfest in the beginning, but you get that Darius ahead, and because of some of the small buffs that he's received time and time again to make him viable. Here at this point in the game, man, he can really start to take control of a game. And there's no one other than the Ornn that you really feel comfortable getting to respond to him. I could see a universe where you get Robbie Bob, you know, he's got the cage, so maybe you can trap in Dragoon in case he extends too far. But aside from that, it could be a pressure point. Not to mention Wildcard, they've got a lot of potential in the damage department. But, you know, you look at their position right now, you look at mentality-wise what they had to do, and they basically have to recreate that advantage all over again. You know, it's almost back to square one. They had a great early game. You're going to want to see it again. Creative pathing from Shorter Ace. Now on the Kindred. Austin, you're a little familiar with this champion, as a matter of fact, I believe.
Here and there, you know, in my solo queue time where I was a hard stuck Diamond 4 player. Absolutely played some Kindred here and there, and well, this champion, you know, very reliant on being able to get your marks in your stacks. That's for sure. The key things to watch out for is once you get that 4 marks, that's when you get that extended range. You get the extra damage throughout your kit, and then every 3 marks from 4. So looking at 7, and then from there, of course, you're looking at being able to get that additional range, all the additional stats that come through. So those are going to be the big, I think, power spikes to watch for this Kindred in specific, who is going to opt in for that Conqueror, of course. So yeah, a champion that I'm very familiar on, but definitely wants to be able to try to snowball. And I have a lot of confidence in Shorter Ace that he's going to be able to do similar things like he did in that last game number 1, where he was just creating so many plays. He had a level 3 gank into the top lane that led towards a kill, got the flash, relieved a lot of pressure from that Gangplank, and then pretty much poured all his attention down in towards that bot lane here. So very possible that first game of very fast, aggressive pacing could likely play a factor here in towards this game number 2.
Yeah, well, you got your work cut out for you for Wildcard Gaming. They've got to do their best. They've got to get the results they got last time around. And hopefully this time it certainly sticks when it comes to grabbing some of those objectives. One of the best parts I liked about the early game for Mirage, because the kills certainly weren't... hang on a second. That's one too many autos than I'm comfortable with, actually, for Tony Top. He gets chunked out.
He does get chunked out. He most certainly was trying to move up there for what looks to be the XP in the wave so that he didn't completely fall far behind. But I think this is just Dragoon having a really good understanding of the matchup. Also opts in for the Ghost in the top lane on the Darius. So he's looking to go for those 1v2s, 1v3s, which means that there could very likely be some attention. Robbie Bob in the mid lane. There will be no swap on the Veigar this time around. We'll end up seeing it played up against the Azir. Command Attack looking to see if he can now put his carry pants on the Azir itself. Has opted in to go for the actual poking rune here with himself, the Arcane Comment. So looking to be at least a little bit more aggressive in towards the laning phase, maybe poke Veigar out and make Robbie Bob's mid lane experience not a fun time in the early game.
For sure. Again, eyes on the jungle position when it comes right down to it, and you're already seeing Shorter Ace. He's on the job, gets spot down by the ward, but that's a lot of damage down.
Very likely will be one kill that goes through. Flashing forward, Shorter Ace is looking for the kill, and he will get first blood already into the bot lane, followed by a second blood that lands on a TX. Already, Shorter Ace making slight work of the early game ganks as 2 kills are gifted right back over.
And you make it seem unreasonable. You say, oh man, they got to get the same lead again. Well, they're kind of already on the job. I don't even really need to remind them. I think they got this one going for themselves. Yami getting something in return. It is going to be the Skull Crab secured. And mid lane, this is a win condition just because the Veigar cage. Azir doesn't have an escape for it. He's either got to blow splash or just wait it out before he can sort of shuffle away. This time around, it's just going to be Yami. Once again, staying true to sort of the Grace playstyle that he had game 1, where he is going to be relying more on trading camps for camps. Maybe he's not going to be, you know, going blow for blow in terms of ganking. But when it comes to objective play, I was trying to mention it before, but this is one of the parts I loved about Mirage. They took more than they were given. They secured some of those early Drakes, and when it came down to it, they stalled out that Infernal Drake soul. You might not remember it, but yeah, the side of Wildcard, they were 3 out of 4 drinks. They were about to get that Infernal buff, and it could have been the victory for themselves, but Mirage sticking through it. And these little leads secured by Wildcard, they are not enough to deter Mirage just yet.
All in, coming in the mid lane. Robbie Bob going to get poked out. That's a lot of mana, though, on the opposite end, used from command attack, and maybe doesn't find as much value as he was maybe hoping for. Down to the bot lane, pressure going to be Hero. Loft just going to clear out a ward and walk himself out as the wave does end up crashing back to the top lane, though. This is not where Tony Top wants to be, I imagine, as things are just looking a little bit grim and tough for him. But as long as he stays alive, that's the most important thing. Even if he falls a little bit behind in the levels and the gold department, he is going to be able to offer so much utility when things start playing and fighting around these neutral objectives or these epic objectives. That ultimate, just an absolute game changer. So he has to try to just keep himself up and healthy as long as he possibly can. TX, though, gets a very early tier. He actually, I believe, got this in right before the 4-minute mark, and having a tier this early off the back end of a kill that went over for themselves puts you in a very, very great spot, for the simple fact that you're going to be able to hit those power spikes a lot sooner than maybe you're anticipating here for the side of Mirage. And on top of it all, there was going to be a dragon started up, but we do have a pause, so we'll wait to see exactly what the pause is actually relating to. But we take a look at the map set at the moment here for us, Jordan, and this dragon's being started up. There is no vision. The pressure here down in towards the bot lane for the Ezreal and the Yuumi as they're pushing things in, as you're also playing to the bot lane that can rotate over. So this very much looks like they should be able to move in here for this dragon that should be picked up.
Oh, Visions. You came into Amateur League of Legends again. You thought you could escape the pause. No,
sir.
That's not possible. That is just an integral part of the League of Legends amateur scene. Yeah, it was, I mean, a game that was building up to be, once again, Wildcard actually possibly being able to reproduce their early success, but really is so early that it's hard to tell. Like you mentioned, the tier secured very early on for the Ezra. That's like buying Tesla stocks in like the 2000s and then just letting that baby sit. You know, you're chilling at that point.
Oh, you're big chilling, Jordan. If you're buying Tesla stocks, then let me tell you, be a happy camper. But either way, this will be the dragon that does go over as we're back into the game. So the pause won't be too long. Early Infernal Dragon going to get a lot of big boost in the stats pretty early on for you, on top of this 2-kill lead, holding a slight gold advantage in the overall gold column. So having yourself a great start, just like we saw in towards the last game. However, I'm curious this time around for a Switch is if whether or not they're going to be able to kind of control all the neutral objectives, because Yami in particular, the man that's popping up on your screen, he did a great job of trading off some neutral objectives. They controlled both Rift Heralds from that last game, and that led to a lot of the gold in towards the pocket, and was the main reason they were actually able to stay in that game, to make sure it wasn't completely just out of their control and they were no longer able to match those team fights. So looking to see if he might be able to maybe replicate some of that gameplay here again in this game too.
You know, Mirage, it was so intelligently played as well. It wasn't just the random steal coming out from Yami. It's like he had the support of his team. It was very much an orchestrated play where they were saying, hey, actually, we can take this objective and we can flex enough to the point where they won't take it. And whether that's a problem with Wildcard, where they've got to be more assertive, or whether that's just Mirage being smart enough to realize how they can trade objectives, it's once again another beautiful stroke of brilliance in the entire painting that is Mirage. It's part of the reason why people put them so highly. They're not just fantastic in the mechanical department, they're such a cerebral team as well. And you've got to really bring everything you have into this early game for Wildcard if they want to take it.
I love this early buy right now for Tony Top, where we see this man play a lot of the carries, and he is definitely most known for his jacks for sure, but he is putting himself on the ore, and he has to kind of play this front lane tank, but he puts himself in the Bramble Vest, where it's like, all right, Dragoon's still going to have the bleed of the passive. He's still going to be pretty effective for the most part here, but making a gank now happen on towards Tony Top, where you're going to be able to mainly, or actually find a kill, it's going to be very unlikely. And as I say this, there is a play that's breaking out right towards the red buff. There is no response from the side of Wildcard Gaming. They will actually just completely back up. And we'll concede this, but there is a trade now just on the opposite side of the map. Yeah. As I think we just saw Shoulder Ace actually fail his dance of arrows over the wall, or maybe he's just actually looking to go right for the Rift Herald. So he's going to trade his red buff out for the Rift Herald, and then maybe even move right in towards the red buff itself. So they put themselves in a pretty good spot here, but there's still lots of time for turret though.
Oh, for sure. And this time around, Wildcard, you know, keeping their eyes on the ball, heads up play, and they're able to trade the red buff for actually a Rift Herald, which is fantastic for themselves. They lost the red buff, really, because I mean, it's Ezreal Yumi in the bot lane. Not quite the pushing power that you want in the early game, but seemingly they get something even better in return. And right now, when we talk about objectives, last game it was sort of going even, sort of going one to the other. Dragon traded each time, but this time around it's just Wildcard with 100% control.
100% control, doing everything they possibly can, and now waiting to see where this Rift Herald is going to get dropped over these next couple of minutes. That's really going to be the key. We haven't seen any action break out except for that level 3 gank down and towards the bot lane, but now Asilian and I Will Find You both have their summoners back up. I Will Find You walks up pretty aggressively. We'll eat a little bit of this poke, and this is where this Ezreal Yumi becomes a little bit lethal under the tower, where they can look to shove you in, poke you out, and maybe force out of back, and maybe even miss out on more of that XP. So we'll continue to watch for that. Of course, in the meantime, with some pings coming through, they know that the Kindred is going to be pathing down towards the bot lane based off the pings. And while there is no ward in the tri-brush, there could be a force of the play. The ultimate is there. Untitled Chapter does lock down both players. The Monsoon in response. Shorter Ace gets rooted up. The flash is there, but Shorter Ace looks to follow it as both summoners expended once again on the bot lane. This time around, won't be able to find any kills.
Ooh, heads up play from Asilian on that one. The Moonlight Visual to get very early snare onto Shorter Ace, and that shut down the gank. Now you got Yami over here trying to relieve a bit of pressure, showing up to the party just in case you get one too many members forming down here for Wildcard. But overall, great reaction from Mirage's bot lane. They do, like you said, Visions, they do lose the summoners. That's actually 4 for 0 when it comes down to summoners, but hey, you'll take getting out alive over giving over a kill to the Ezreal Yumi lane. That will eventually become so oppressive.
Yami not making any early game plays across the last couple of games, but most certainly winning in the PvE department. 77 CS, more than his top laner and his 80 carry. Putting in the work and collecting that paycheck in the gold. As command attack and land some poke down. The next big fight could just break out around this dragon here for us, which will be an air dragon of the 4 elementals. It looks like the first to the party is going to be the side of Wildcard Gaming, and they're going to start it up. Shorter Ace not wasting any time. There could be a contest. Ziak's here to provide some poke, as Yami can look to use that Ragnarok and run right in. Now the TP is also coming down. A very split fight across a lot of members. I Will Find You low. The steal is there. Beautiful play that comes in from Yami. Now Shorter Ace has to expend the land for a spike, but he can't get over the wall. He is deleted from the Primordial Burst. So big play that does end up breaking through. Robbie Bob grabs himself a kill. They steal the dragon away, and that's going to be tough scenes here for the side of Wildcard Gaming.
Yeah, Wildcard Gaming. They try and be cunning. They try and be sneaky and secure themselves a dragon while not fully committing to the dragon pit. What ends up happening, a bit of a drive-through appearance from Yami here. Cameo into the dragon pit and able to secure it from themselves. But some of that early damage, especially from Yami, looking good. Unfortunately, that was, of course, Yami stealing it, and Shorter Ace goes down as well.
Great timing on the Primordial Burst that comes through from Robbie Bob. That's another smile on the face for Rafa here in the points department as he gets his first kill of the game for his team. Meanwhile, while all this happens, the gold lead shrinked once again. Last time we did not see a very big breakout in that gold department, and this is the force of the Rift Herald. There is some plating to play for, and you maybe even could look to commit for the entirety of the tower, which is still First Blood Tower up for the taking. And this should be the call and might just be the goal. There's no one here to really support the bot lane, who already does not have any summoners. So this will be the first tower. So great use of the Rift Herald to be able to create some plays and make some extra gold happen here across the team, as they'll pull ahead once again with that 1K gold lead.
That's just smart stuff. Wildcard Gaming, you remember them taking the Rift Herald from that trade with the red buff, and it comes back to reward them at the end of the day. They are staring at a 1,000 gold lead. Visions, yeah, I gotta mention it. Is this really enough? Do Wildcard feel comfortable? They probably don't. If I was on the side of Wildcard, I think you definitely gotta bolster up that gold lead, and it's not getting closer. Yami with a nice steal.
I mean, it's not like it's massive. It's the little things switch. The little things hurt.
Right.
Talking about the little things hurt. Man attack, the little things hurt, and while the big things about to come through, goodbye, Robbie Bob, as he is taken out. And that's another one on the board for Robbie as he grabs himself kill number 2 with ease.
Wow. I don't want to blow your mind, but you get enough little things and it ends up becoming a big thing, actually. The entire health bar.
More big things happening. Ragnarok is popped, but the Monsoon is out. The root is enough to find the kill, and it's Shorter Race that grabs this, but he's taken so much damage, will just barely stay alive by the skin of his teeth. So will result in an overall 1-for-1 in that long extended skirmish there for the last 20 minutes or so as they fight over that Scuttle Crab, but it's going to be Kiami that actually pays for that crab with his life.
Yeah, no kidding. Finally, Kiami gets punished for actually securing one too many jungle camps. He's been feeling too comfortable now. And finally, he is going to be stopped in his tracks. That's a good sign for Wildcard. The gold lead is as well, but that is slowly diminishing when you get some of these brilliant plays coming out from Mirage. That last play, not as brilliant as you expect, but this is still very much an even Stevens game. Now is really when you start wondering, hey, actually, Austin, who does outscale the other here? Who, in terms of the teamfight department, is going to be able to have an advantage once you get to that 30, 35-minute mark?
Tony Top, he's got a lot of armor, man. We'll see if it can be shredded from this Kindred. Does have some actual percent health damage. And well, goodbye, Tony Top. The ultimate is there, and now a play maybe onto Robbie Bob, but command attack quickly will turn around as he puts up his passive, will drop the tower. So nice play on the top side here to be able to take out Tony Top and punish him for the aggression moving up in the lane.
And the Ezreal Yuumi as well, stationed into the mid lane. This is really where that oppression thing that we were talking about, it's going to start to come into play. As Cillian taking a chunk, trying to heal up with the chakrams, and hang on.
That's aggressive there. Tax feeling that one as they go just about all the way in. They get both of the summoners off of a Zillion, which does actually set you up pretty well for this dragon that's going to be spawning in about 30 seconds. However, TX also using his flash. Luckily, he's got a flash, every 10, 11 seconds for himself switch with that arcane shift. But he might have to use that so-called flash, as I'm calling it, as he has to back away. He is fine. Tower stays up and alive, so no mid lane tower. Gonna go down for additional pressure, but this dragon now getting closer and closer to spawning. 10 seconds away. Both junglers hovering around this, waiting for this potential fight to break out.
Oh yeah, let's look at the big picture plays coming into this one. It's going to be the third Drake. And of course, it's going to be bounced throughout the rest of it. But this time around, it's looking like Mirage here, flexing their muscles. We've got the Ornn coming from the top side, but same could be said, command attack, hanging out around the river. Remember, it really is just all about how much space you can get for that flanker if he gets caught off guard. Someone like command attack, someone like an Azir, taken away already is such a brutal blow to the team comp. But that's Rifthill actually already getting something in return. Reactions demanded from Mirage, and this looks like easy takings for Wildcard.
They're going to concede it. I think that's the right call for sure, but Tony Top tries to rotate down. They use the Rift Herald perfectly. They not only grab themselves their second elemental of the game, but they break open this mid pressure yet again. So we're seeing the same story as last game for us right now, Jordan.
Oh, no.
They're breaking open the mid lane tower. They're getting a lot of pressure on the map. They're starting to fight over these neutral objectives, and things are looking great. But, you know, even more so at the moment, this is going to have to be, I think, really important to try to execute on as we head in towards these next 10 to 15 minutes. Things started to get fumbled a bit when they got that first Baron. They no longer looked as dominant as they once did. And at the very least, they have the gold in the right places here for a few of these members on the side of Wildcard Gaming, but it really is just in the back of my head, and I'm sure in the back of theirs, on whether or not they're going to be able to consistently keep this up and try to match the pressure here, and well, try to match the beast that Mirage clearly have already proven themselves to be.
I don't know if I like what you're insinuating here, but it's just, Wildcard, they're feeling confident, man. They're a new person, you know? Game 1 to game 2, they learned, they adapted, they got this gold lead in their hands. What could possibly go wrong? We'll have to wait and see.
Well, what's going wrong right now? The top lane tower not looking great, but the response is the mid lane push. Don't know if they're going to be able to convert for a trade, but this most certainly will go down. So first tower of the game picked up for Mirage, and gold gets shared here locally amongst the jungler and the mid laner. But Shorty Ace looking to make this play, and well, Shorty's going back in. Should be able to find the damage that he does. Beautiful dive that comes to you from behind. That is the trade of the play. So we most certainly will take this trade any day of the week. Wildcard Gaming coming out once again.
There you go, Wildcard. Actually showing that they have learned from their mistakes. They are pushing their advantages more than is comfortable for Mirage. Mirage just trying to react at the moment. You look at all the map control in favor for Wildcard, and again, it looks promising. Let's talk about some of the big carries coming into some of those team fights. I think you'd be so mistaken if you don't mention Teox on the Ezreal. He got an early tier. He has 1 kill in his pocket, but do not underestimate this guy. He will deliver. Has the Yuumi as well to rely on. I think this could be a game where, you know, you have enough threats on the map, someone like Command Attack, Dragoon as well, even Shorter Ace, where slowly but surely the Ezreal will get enough openings and he will start to clean up the game like we saw in game 1.
It's very possible. I mean, he was hitting some nice snipes. He was positioning really well. It's just things got a little out of hand when a Kassadin dives on you with a couple of stacks in the Rift Walk, and you just say goodbye to your health bar in one little pop. Hopefully not the case this time around, as there's not anyone that's going to be able to pop him unless he's super low with that Primordial Burst, more or less. Meantime, still, everything is happening through Robbie Bob, and this is the key thing, I think, to really watch out for. You're seeing the trade of the buffs, but more importantly, every single aggressive play, every single objective that's being contested or trying to be taken is off the back end of Yami playing with Robbie Bob, trying to create the pressure. You just saw it a few minutes ago when they made that play in towards the top lane where they knocked down the tier 1, and then they translated that in towards an invade, which makes sure that they are getting this blue buff constantly back in towards their carry. He has all of the gold essentially here for his team. He's going Super Soaker Vagar. He's CSing extremely well as he finds himself up very ahead right now of Command Attack. So he is ready to carry this game out at the moment. I feel like at the moment what they want to do is just to allow a Cillian to get to a point where he is also going to be as effective. So they have more than one threat in these team fights, where you're seeing, at least right at the moment, Wildcard Gaming, they have multiple threats that you have to try and worry about, and not all of them are very easy to try and lock down.
Yeah, it's going to be a balancing act. Wildcard Gaming, I think one of the best ultimates that they have at their disposal to sort of juggle aggro here is going to be the Lamb's Respite from Kindred. If Shorter Ace can position himself in the right spot, you can just think of so much more damage than your health bars allow. We'll have to see. This looks like a bit of a proactive play where Mirage, they're very comfortable just taking up this mid lane spot. They're forcing an issue, and we'll see if the collapses come down for it.
There is a dragon coming up in 30 seconds. Wildcard Gaming eyeing this one up. This would be dragon number 3, putting themselves just one away from securing that Mountain Soul. And on the opposite end, the last one was actually given up here for the side of Mirage. They did not want any part in it. And this time around, they are grouped up in the mid lane. Darius comes off of a back, gets that 2-item spike. So things looking pretty good if they do take themselves a fight. 2-item spike for Ezreal, getting close to the 2 items, at least for the Azir. The Kindred is definitely online here, going for the Sated. And you're putting yourself in a Blood Razor, as you're putting yourself in a great spot. But this is a call. Tony Top says, nah, no, you do not. I'm going to sniff this one out here a mile away. They tried to make the play, will be denied. And now I expect them to rotate over towards this Drake.
Blue Trinket. God bless that one. The OG Clairvoyance here coming through. It's going to be Robbie Bob with the teleport, and look at the walk-up.
Cage gets thrown out. Not going to connect onto anyone just yet. Mid lane has to be collected here, but they're bouncing back and forth. I feel like this is a very interesting call where they want to try and trade things out. And God bless Joe here in the background where he shows us both. And you are going to see a bit of an aggressive play. They have no affiliates in this fight. So if they pull the trigger, they can get on top of them. But like I touched on in the draft switch, they don't exactly have too many tools to be able to simply run at this squad. And if they do, they have to be scared of that Vagar cage. But Yami, on the other hand, he has stepped way too far forward. He might have just gifted over a kill. And well, he will. Shorter Ace also keeps himself up and alive. Dragoon not done as he has the Yumi on top of him, trying to run some players down. But while all that happens, yes, you find a kill in towards the jungle, but that Dragon, the objective, it ends up getting secured here for Acelian, as he's going to be able to grab that second one here for his team.
Yeah, that is the bright spot. This is sort of a dark spot as Wildcard Gaming command attack, commanding the map right now. Baron started as well, and is the reaction going to come in time?
There is no jungler here. The call on this Baron is perfect. They have so much shred, so much percent health.
Oh, we're going in.
Tony Top goes over the wall. He's crazy to get the steal, but he doesn't even have a chance, as that will be the Baron that goes through, as well as an additional kill. And now you're sitting pretty right now for Wildcard Gaming. They have looked a lot more aggressive. They've forced the hands way more times here for the side of Mirage here, where they're just trying to make them play very reactive. And so far, it's worked out. It's been great. You're putting yourself in a very advantageous spot to be able to close this game out. But we did say that last game. We did see that last game. It's going to be really off the back end of this Baron to kind of prove it to me, to see that they do have enough in the tank to be able to close games.
Oh, you could tell. We're sort of dancing with our words. We're like, Wildcard, wow, really, really promising stuff. I'm not placing any bets, by the way, because because we saw how last game went. Tony Top, into that, Austin, sometimes a man's got to do what a man's got to do. And sometimes you don't like to do it, but you just have to jump into that Baron pit. You got to go with what your gut's telling you to do. Unfortunately, doesn't secure anything. This is Baron buffed in the hands of Wildcard, and this time around, it looks so much more promising, I gotta say. They don't have to overextend. They have so much tower damage potential at their disposal right now. The Azir, the Ezreal, even Dragoon here going for a bit of a bite onto Tony Top.
Dragoon is going to get chunked out fairly low. Has to be careful. Primordial Burst is up and available, but here comes the Shurima Shuffle. That way the Emperor's Divide that just goes wide. Now they're re-engaged with a call. The Ford God does find some damage on the shorter Ace, but it's going to be the Azir taken out of the fight, followed by a great engage. The Axe goes forward, finds one. The follow-up kill is there on towards the jungler. So this will result in a 1-for-2 at the moment in favor of Wildcard Gaming. Still looking to press their advantage in the spot lane as they go in once again. Jax looking for the combos. Will land some more poke. Won't be able to find any final kills, but now they're knocking on the door and they're looking to bust open the gate.
Yeah, this Baron buff paying off in dividends. They get a slight advantage in the member department and they convert it. Inhibitor secured, the first for Wildcard of this series, but this game not looking too much like the last Wildcard. They are bringing the heat.
Grabbing an inhibitor, I think, this early is really what sets it off. And you take a replay and you look at all of this command attack,
except for that,
engage. Fortunately, not there for him. And then it's shorter Ace who actually eats up that ultimate. But look at the damage from the side, which I don't know what just happened. Jax comes in like a live wire. He just absolutely electrifies all four of those members there. So beautifully done from him to be able to at least kind of swing that fight in their favor as they're pulling ahead here, starting to find themselves with a 6.5k gold lead roughly, and still having access to this Baron just for a few more seconds as it does inspire. But they have the pressure in the bot lane. They have the pressure throughout all of the map as they can start to look to take all of these objectives and towers away. But they are most certainly in another great spot here for themselves, Switch, where they're just suffocating the side of Mirage.
Oh, man. Visions. Bot lane cracked open, inhibitor gone, and honestly, that Ezreal play was like eye candy for a League of Legends player. That's just magnificent stuff. And as a whole, Tiax, I mean, I kind of called it, but at the same time, all I did was say the guy's name. He is actually big braining the heck out of this game, and to have so many threats on the map for Wildcard, last time around, you were struggling to feel some of their pressure. At times, they were getting outflexed by Mirage, but this time around, they've got so much damage at their disposal. They don't need engage because they are always at the advantage. They are always sort of forcing the issue here, sometimes around the Baron, sometimes around the bot lane. And finally, when they're given the opportunity, they are able to crack it open now towards this dragon as it's coming up in around 10 seconds. And going to make a bold prediction and say Mirage are not going to secure that one.
I think that might just be the safe prediction for sure, as I don't know if anyone's going to be able to walk up here. Look at that absolute vision that is just set up right now. 3 pink wards here in towards this blue quadrant here for us. It is quite literally lit up like a Christmas tree. And there is no one that's going to be able to walk through that without being seen just about immediately as they walk into their own jungle. And well, you called it. Dragon goes over. Third one secured for Wildcard Gaming. Once again, just one away from being able to secure themselves that full-on Soul Dragon. They have the scaling going for themselves at the moment. We're seeing Ezreal, who's just an absolute machine. He's a monster. I don't know who's going to be able to take him down, let alone actually get on top of him. That's going to be a problem for sure. But while all that happens, there's some scaling happen on the opposing team here for us. Super Soaker Vagar has himself the upgraded death cap now from the Ornn, so he is going to be most certainly packing a punch when he's landing some of these abilities. You have the Aphelios getting very close towards his third item here, getting even closer to that 75% crit on top of the Molten's Edge. There is damage here if they can manage to land it on someone. The problem is making sure they don't get blown up before they can release everything that they have in the tank.
Gotta agree with you on that one. It's just all about careful steps. Last time around, when Mirage was getting sieged upon, they were always positioning someone on the side, someone around the flank. And that's what made Wildcard so uncomfortable. First of all, Wildcard, they still don't have the room for discomfort. They just need to commit to plays right now. And also, I mean, in terms of a flanker, you don't have a Kassadin anymore. You know, you don't have some big, powerful top laner either. You've got an Ornn and you've got a Vagar. It's really just all about front-to-back teamfights. And I don't know if that suits Mirage right now. I don't know if that suits this point in the game. And again, you can never count them out with that creativity. They might be cooking something in the pot.
Grouping up as 5 as they run up the mid lane. Gonna fight for mid lane pressure. The Baron, of course, up and alive for us. Aggressive play, command attack, has to flash away, but the knockup is gonna land nonetheless. Going so aggressive, the Ragnarok in hand. Command attack buys a little bit more time, and now shorter race from the flank. That will be Aphelios out of the fight. Now Tiax can look to absolutely just have a firing range with his skill shots. Will he be able to go forward? He will, as that's a great engage from Dragoon as he finds the double pull in, fighting in the backline. Shorter Ace will have the land first fight. Heals away, tries to back up. No one else falling just yet, but Tony Top is just got a sliver of health left in that health bar. Shorter Ace now has the Yuumi as he cleans up his opposing jungler. Tony Top gets run down. The base is in shambles. You only have the support up and alive. A Cillian might just be the saving grace as he's up in 10 seconds. But you have lost your Janna. You no longer have the shielding. And this will be the side of a Wildcard Gaming knocking on the door, looking to potentially end the game and put the final nail in the coffin.
Yeah, and all that hard work in the early game. Wildcard this time around, it comes to realization. It comes back to reward them. The shuffle, the pull, and that is going to be Wildcard evening it up here in the first block. 1-1. And that is going to be a promising start to both teams here in week 2. You saw Mirage, have just such beautiful team fighting when it came to game 1, but it turns out they can bleed when they're given enough of a deficit. Wildcard were able to press the issue. They were able to translate some of those early advantage into the big picture plays, and they get the win as well.
Get the win, and I am very impressed overall with Wildcard Gaming be able to bounce back in the fashion that they did. Losing game number 1, it is a very tough pill to swallow in a lot of cases where you're just in control of the entire game. You're literally just one team fight away, just a few steps away to be able to close out the very first game, and then you fumble it the way that you do. You lose that one, and it's just it's a real tough situation overall. But the bounce back in game 2, that's what impresses me. They go for the same type of style in the sense that they're just creating plays in the early stages of the game, and that was all off the back end of Shorter Ace. Really gotta give him a round of applause, I think, for setting his team up with success there. That was the difference for me there, Switch. Just seeing how both of those early games went, and when they got an advantage in the early stages of the game, they ran away with it. They were able to control it, and that's what led towards what was almost a close win in map number 1, but most certainly was a closeout here in the game number 2.
Yeah, I think you got to reward Wildcard Gaming for the pick and ban that they came through with this time around. They gave themselves champions that actually can do an insane amount of work, actually can start to control a rift once they're given an advantage. You really got to give it over to the Ezreal Yuumi. Look at the beautiful damage I don't think anyone from Mirage, even close, maybe even collectively, it's not the same as Teox, but this is such a powerful carry. No wonder this guy's hyped up. The marksman for Wildcard Gaming, he can really get it done when it comes down to it. But the bigger picture here for me, something more long-term that you can look forward to with Wildcard Gaming, man, the shorter ace just looks so intelligent. When it comes to the jungle pathing, he was able to secure his team advantages 2 games in a row. One is like, okay, could have been coin flip. You never quite know with League of Legends. 2 games in a row, though, that is a promising pattern of Visions.
It is a promising pattern, absolutely, and it's still kind of coming back to things. TX most certainly got the best of Azilian here within this matchup, I think, on the day, and I think that was a tough showing. He was able to show us, listen, you can pick the Affilios if you would like. In every single pick order, they were most certainly favoring and leaning towards the Ezreal, and there was a reason for it. They had a strategy behind it, both enchanters that they combined with it, just made it so effective, made it so lethal, made it so difficult to be able to do anything and to be able to actually make it in towards the game itself and match it up. But ladies and gentlemen, we are going to now throw it over towards the analyst desk to get a breakdown on how that game played out for us and how everything did unravel.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We have returned with the analyst desk here on Challengers Uprising, and it's Max and Cubby. And you know what? Production, can you show that predictions graphic for this series one more time? I just want to remind people. I just want to remind people who said that Wildcard was splitting 1-1 with Mirage, and who on this desk, specifically 2 people, said Mirage was going 2-0. Yeah, I'm waiting. I'm waiting.
Yeah. You had the Smurf.
And don't point at Smacks, Cubby.
Oh, yeah,
you
yeah.
have to point at yourself, too.
Continue.
Skipping
I'll
over?
continue the point. It's this way.
Oh, you went the wrong way.
I'm pointing the right way now.
All right. We're figuring this out.
Look, read it and weep, ladies and gentlemen. 1-1, wild card. Now, jokes aside, I was feeling a little suspicious about how things might have gone today with your confidence in Mirage going 2-0. But one thing that we didn't account for going back to the draft of Wildcard Gaming versus Mirage was we talk about Shorter Ace. He doesn't follow the meta. He doesn't play specifically junglers that a lot of other amateur junglers favor, right? He wants to go for Skarner and Sejuani, but he locked in Kindred today, Smacks.
He went for it. He's going for the more meta style here in the scaling kind of marksman style in the Kindred, and it absolutely worked out here for Wildcard. Very similar to game number 1, they actually did manage to get a lot of stuff done in this early game. Now, funnily enough, the Sejuani was more proactive than the Kindred, I gotta say, in those ganks and everything. Short Ace was only able to get that one off in the bot lane in the very early game, in the very early stages until he hit level 6. But it was a really nice gank in that bot lane. He split up Asilian and Mist very well. They kind of just lost their grasp on what they wanted to do in that gank time, and they got those first 2 kills of the game. Really, really nicely done. I'm very impressed that they were able to pull out this Kindred, and it scaled really well too. He just had a phenomenal game here.
Yeah, really strong showing coming out from Shorter Ace. And, I also wanted to hit on TX as well, who I think had 2 very strong games on the Ezreal, but his play really shone through in this match.
Yeah, he's like we were talking about, this is he's not getting the mid lane experience on this Ezreal. We saw he was trying to dive and get that kill in the mid lane, couldn't quite land it, but he had the Yuumi attached to him, so it's almost the same, just a little bit less damage, a little bit more healing. You can't die with the Yuumi, but yeah, he still had a phenomenal game here on this Ezreal. Absolute smurf. He went deathless in this game. Just a crazy, crazy series from both Shorter Ace and TX as well. I think you got to get him off that Ezreal, man, until it gets nerfed, maybe, because he just looks completely insane on this pick.
Yeah, just to look back at the final KDAs for at the end of the game, TX was 5-0-9 on the Ezreal, and he didn't run Iceborne Gauntlet. He went the Trinity Force, so pairing along with the Death Stance and the Muramana, this guy was pumping out damage. And, to speak on the flip side, 5-1-6 as well for Shorter Ace on this Kindred. And when we're talking about fantasy points, guys, I mean, it's another thing that you guys missed out on. I'm looking at who Cubby drafted, Exilian. He went 0-3-1 in that game, so not looking too hot on the points there. And for you, Mr. Smacks,
I picked the wrong jungler.
You picked Hayami. You picked the wrong jungler, 0-4-3. So whereas your boy, we got TX in there, so he's the result speaks for themselves. And and enough of me bagging on you guys for because we still got another series coming up. But just looking on in terms of we have to look back on Wildcard Gaming's draft once again, just as a whole, because, we didn't expect the Kindred to come out, but, there's another pick that we have to give credit to, and I don't think Dragoon got much love, was his Darius, right? This is another pick that not many top laners are drifting towards. Probably only Brown Man Darius is the only one that's very well known to pick in a lot of variety situations, Cubby.
Yeah, and it's good to see those counters coming through. I know that we've seen Singed run in the past as a counter into Ornn. I've seen multiple teams try that one out, but Darius, another very tough matchup for the Ornn. Ghost was buffed this patch. Good to see it come through. And, ultimately, it was nice having that consistent pressure in the top lane, but what I really liked is, game 1, we saw the answer that Mirage had to Viger, which was the cast-in, right? You can jump, hop, skip, and jump your way through that stun. And then game 2, Viger's locked in by Robbie Bob, and Ezreal, we saw Ezreal hop, skipping, and jumping around that cage as well. So the fact that, you're really able to keep Viger back with the Ezreal play, I want to highlight TX once again, because while Dragoon, he was rock solid in that counter matchup in the top lane. I really feel like this game was the TX difference shining on through as he was raining Mystic shots down with that Trinity Force damage and really creating a ton of space for his team.
Yeah, and we were hyping up a lot about Wildcard Gaming, but Smacks, I'm going to throw it to your way. What happened with Mirage this game? Because on paper, you have some champions like Aphelios and Olaf, which for both Asilian and Hayami are good picks. They're comfort picks for sure, but something in the early mid game did not come together for this composition to actually take off.
Yeah, it's really disappointing, not just because I predicted them to win this game, but also just because they seem to be lacking the proactivity here in the early game. They had both of the early games just completely stripped away from them here. And I think the big highlight for me, just looking at this from a draft perspective, is their mid-jungle duo. Not the players, but the champions that are being picked. You cannot expect to do something in the early game with Graves and Kassadin. and then moving forward as well, the Olaf and the Veigar too. As cute as that Fury Horn Veigar skin is, yeah, it does have a 0% win rate here on the day so far. And I think it is just because it can't do too much to contest the early game, and it lets champions like the Kindred just have free reign over getting their marks and everything, and having a lot to do with those early ganks. The Sejuani, well, it was on the other team, so maybe that's a bad example. But you can do a whole lot when you are against something like the Veigar. And even though Olaf and the Felios as well can do a whole lot in this early game, if your mid laner is playing a champion that just kind of sits there and waits, then it becomes really difficult to go for these early plays. And like you've heard me say this a lot. If you're picking Olaf, you want to go for those first two Drakes pretty much every single time. They couldn't do it because it's Veigar, and Azir's going to outrange him in the early game. It is a counter pick, but it usually gets to that point once the game goes on, not in the lane. And that's exactly what we saw here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I again, I want to highlight this Ezreal though, because this definitely seems like the pick that both of these AD carries were really wanting to get, and TX was the one who got it both times. He looked astounding on it, and it's so broken with the Death Dance. The 200 years champ, you know, he's cool and all, and he's also like one that can't die, but an Ezreal, you know, he's the new hotness. He can get the Death Dance, he can get the Iceborne. You just cannot kill this champion. And he has something that Aphelios doesn't. He's got a blink, like the Kassadin in the game one. He can get out of things like that. And like Cubby was mentioning, he can outmaneuver the Veigar too. So even in that late game situation where Robbie Bob is scaled up on the Veigar, he has to deal with the blink that he himself had the advantage over Wildcard in game one. So that's another thing that looked really, really solid for Wildcard, and that's why Rafa's got the big brain prediction on lock.
What can I say, gentlemen? I mean, it's not that I foresaw this coming, but you know, I don't know what to tell you. Sometimes the inspiration comes through in many ways and forms, but I want to go back to this Ezreal pick because it's probably going to be very contested in the second series that we will be getting into just a few minutes, which will be 100 Thieves taking on Simplicity Esports. Between those two, we know that King Vex and Yon are very avid Ezreal players. Now, the question for Cubby, I'm going to direct it towards you because I know you're a big fan of just balance in general for the game state. You know, is Ezreal a problem or is Death's Dance the problem here?
I'm gonna go with Death's Dance and Yuumi. Those are the two problems that make Ezreal a big problem.
The cat. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Those picks make Ezreal really deadly, and it also helps when you have a player like Yon on that Ezreal as well. We've seen Yon do so much work on that champion throughout so many different games. We have a very big sample size of his play, and it's one that, you know, if 100 Thieves next, if they get their hands on it, they're happy to take it. But I also really like some of the counters that they have into Yuumi. It feels like they like to play they like to put Kenvia and Olaf into the Yuumi. They like to have tenacity on Mordekaiser, and they almost answer it through different lanes to try and isolate that Yuumi. And I feel like it's a really strong counter and play compared to what a lot of the other teams are doing.
Yeah, I love Mordekaiser into Yuumi. It's so jarring as the Yuumi to like have your vessel get sucked away into the death realm, and you're just like, just kind of twiddling your thumbs, like, well, I sure hope he lives. I can't heal him while he's in there. So
Yeah, no,
I
it's
absolutely love
very
that pick into Yumi.
it's very akin to the situation. I think I've spoken with both of you. I like to make the reference that Yumi is like always looking for an Uber driver, right? And so Mordekaiser comes in, and suddenly your Uber driver in the car is just gone, and you just fall on the street. And now you're like, wait, how do I get home? Who's gonna pick me up? I'm left stranded, right? And then it's never fun for Yumi if she's fighting in the middle of a team fight, and then her Ezreal decides to get a little antsy, ease in, and then Mordekaiser comes out of Fog of War, Death Realm, and now Yumi's just sitting in the middle of a bunch of other people, and now that cat is dead. It's squashed.
Even if you have the QSS, you're still exposed as the Yumi for even just a little bit, which can be enough to kill her. You know, she's a very fragile champion. I would say the most fragile in the entire game, unless I guess if Kled didn't have his Scarl, perhaps. But that's another thing. You don't have to worry about that. But yeah, I really love like creative stuff that's not just a lane counter, because you know it's a 5-person game. It's not just you and your lane opponent that are duking it out. You have interactions across the entire rift, and I really am hoping to see stuff like that, especially if they can find an answer to this Ezreal, because it seems like it's unstoppable here.
I'm not sure really if any teams have a strong answer to Ezreal, because he not only puts out a ton of damage, he also just has a really safe laning phase for the most part, as he can just farm minions with his Mystic Shot from quite a distance away, pretty much outranging even a Caitlyn basic auto attack range, which is 650 and more than that. I don't know the number off the top of my head for Mystic Shot, but still, it's gonna be a daunting task for any team if they have to go up against it. But the ban is an option that is available for both teams, depending on who is red side and who is blue side, because we're very confident that Ezreal is going to be first picked in either of these games in the new series that we have coming up between 100 Thieves and Simplicity Esports, who are just getting ready